Hey there, shenanigans. I am going to make a video of a session recap and have a chat with you folks about our adventure as it goes in Mines of Phandelver. And let's talk about a couple of different things. One of the first things I want to do is talk about how, when we talked about different strategies you could use in combat before, I mentioned keeping the party together and also focusing fire. All of these were to help you work on action economy, which is like whichever group has the most actions per round is at a higher advantage, is at a really big advantage. And the other thing that can be incredibly useful in tactical combat in Dungeons and Dragons is to know what you're going to encounter and then putting together a plan. And one of the first parts about that, besides for each character to have an idea of like, this is my default when I'm fighting in melee, this is my default when I'm fighting lots of critters, this is my default when I'm doing a ranged thing, is obviously each one of you should have some defaults as the team, who's going to be next to each other, who's going to protect somebody if something goes bad, etc., etc. Then the other thing that it could be incredibly useful is if what you do is know what's coming up, and the way to do that is to scout ahead, and you have a great character to do that, Elio, because Elio's a great scout because Elio has stealth and also has tremor sense, which means Elio can often know what is under the door in the next room as long as you're underground. Very handy. So whenever you're thinking about like what's going to happen next through that door or what's around the corner, what you can do is you can send Elio just out there, and Elio can go stealthy and say go up maybe 300 feet or maybe into the next room, whatever. And then what you could do is you can say like, let's set a time block, maybe 1 minute, maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes until the rest of the party follows along. And of course what you can do is make a plan for Elio getting caught or seen. What are we going to do? So just thinking ahead about like, what's our plan when stuff happens? And remember, I'll always let y'all talk together about, what's going to happen. So Elio can see a thing, and I'm not going to say like, Elio, you got to be quiet. Instead, I would just say something like, yeah, Elio, this is what you see, and Elio can talk to the rest of the crew about what's happening. So that was just another strategy tip for you. Let's talk for a minute about where we're at in our game. One of the things that we could do is talk about how you folks have a few plot goals. One of the things you want to do is find Gundren. And what you also want to do is maybe find this Wave Echo Cave and this weird magical something something device. You're not sure how that works. And then also you've got this strange magical box that you found in that goblin cave. So these are like plot goals, like figure out how the box works and find the cave and find Gundren. So those are like plot developing goals that you have. And then there's some situations that are coming up. One is that the goblins have been stealing the trade goods from Lionshield Coster. Do you want to do something about that? You certainly don't have to, but it's something that's there. Then you want to see what's up with Sister Garaele, and also you want to figure out what's up with Sildar's head. She also implied that she would have something to help out with there. And then who's this town master, Harbin Wester? What's going on with him? And then what is up with this group called the Redbrands? So right now, so far we've talked about like what are your plot goals, and then what are some situations. And then I also want you to start thinking individually about your personal goals for each character. Something that you can say like, this is what I really want to do given the situation around us. And you can talk about like, do you want to get power through money or magic items? Or you could talk about like, do we want to help Phandalin? Do we want to help build up Phandalin? Is this our new home? Or do you want to go back and help Neverwinter or develop a situation in Neverwinter? You can say like, okay, someday I want a tavern or a keep or a castle, something that fits your style or your dreams, and getting the idea of like what your character would like to be doing. It's a dream that is reachable probably, but maybe not in a while. Just think about like, why is my character here? What do they want? And for that is like, does my character like Phandalin? Or does my character miss Neverwinter and want to be in Neverwinter? Do you want to be somewhere else? All of these are possible. I really want this adventure to be, as long as we're sort of on the general plot and storyline, bigger goals for you as an individual so that you know what to say or why to say it when stuff comes up. So then what we could also look at is like, other possibilities are like, do I want my tavern, keep, or castle to be a dojo or a school so that I can teach people things and bring that out to the world? Or do you want to get, I don't know, I mean, you could do anything, Hey, I want to get rich enough to buy a ship and go be pirates sailing out across the trackless sea. There's so much out there. Just talk with me about it and get anchored to it. Think about what would be fun for your character to be chasing after. Okay, let's do a fairly quick recap of what happened on the adventure so far, because we're kind of at this grounding point. Like, the introduction is done, and we've had 4 sessions, and I'm imagining this will be something like a 12-session adventure. Obviously, if we say we're in love with these characters, we've developed a new opening situation, then it could be longer. But let's just imagine that you're the first third of the way through what's happening here. And then if new things happen, if new things open up, it could obviously be longer. So your patron Gundren, cousin to Elio, and his friend Sildar got kidnapped on the way to Phandalin, while you were delivering goods to Phandalin, Gundren's goods. You got ambushed on the way to Phandalin by the same kidnappers, a bunch of goblins, led by a kobold named Clarg. You went to save them, but Sildar was killed, and Gundren's nowhere to be found. You think taken somewhere else, though. Then you also found this magical box. The Lindra found this box. And then you got the box. You took Sildar's head after it had been cut off by Ymik, and you got the heck out of there, being chased by Clarg and all of his goblins, and even his giant guard dog Ripper. And you were in trouble. It was dicey, but you basically got out the door, and suddenly there was this drow elf in what was some sort of big cloak, but scary, and she had this just giant fucking spider that was her pet, and that distracted Clarg. And you folks decided, after you learned that what she seemed to be after was this box that you had in Thalindra's bag, was to get out. So you split back to Phandalin. And then when you were at Phandalin, you kind of walked in on this town hall meeting being held at the Stonehill Inn that was being led by the fabulous Trelena Stonehill. And you learned some stuff about what's going on. One of the big things that the town's concerned about is that it's being controlled by a group called the Redbrands, and they have killed old Farmer Dendrar. His family has disappeared. Ben disappeared. Who knows? And then the Redbrands seem to have made some sort of like home base out of the Sleeping Giant Tavern, which has been around, but they seem to have taken over. You don't know the details of that. And then these Redbrands are extracting toll fees from various people for protection. So they're being a little mafia-like. And they seem to be, they're going easy on Harbin Wester and the woman Halia over at the Miners Exchange. These are the things you've learned so far. Then also, obviously, you were talking to the owner of Lionshield Coster, and you learned that, yep, her goods are up in that goblin hideout. So that's interesting. It's called Cragmaws. And that's the name of Clark's crew, the Cragmaws. It's Goblin Clan, you think, the name of the Goblin Clan. And so the other thing that happened is, you let the town know that Sildar died by pulling out his head in a bag, and the town was devastated, especially Trelena and her husband, very upset, but the whole town. Sildar seems to have been like a real anchor to the town, and that was a real devastating thing for them. So from there, what you learned is that Sister Garaele, a local priest, the town's priest, she wants to like lead the burial rites. She's also very sad about the death of Sildar, and she also wants to get to know you folks. And I know that Bernora also was interested in talking to her, so there's something there. And after you talk, things get sort of settled, and you all spent the night at the Stonehill Inn. And the question is, going back to our plots, like, what are you going to do about it? And there's real choices here for you. Think about like your character's personal goals, and think about your goals as a team, so that we can all say like, okay, this is what we're up to. And it can be, we're going to go find Wave Echo Cave, and maybe that's through Gundren, so we're going to go find Gundren and find this cave. We've got this map. We don't know how it works. What does this box have to do with this? Or you could say what we're going to do is figure out how to help this town with whatever's going on with these folks called the Redbrands. And that would mean probably, checking out the Sleeping Giant Tavern, or talking to the town master, Harbin Wester. So figure out, are we being about Phandalin? Are we being about Gundren? And are we being about Wave Echo Cavern? So all of that is basically where you're at when you're going to get up in the morning. And the next thing that's important is that when you wake up in the morning, you'll all be 3rd level. And so that means for most of you, that means picking a subclass. 3rd level is kind of a big sort of milestone level for you to make, where you're kind of picking like, okay, I know kind of who I am, and this is more specifically, what are the skills that I want to develop? And I'd love to talk to obviously any one of you about your character's goals, and also what your character wants to take on for their next sort of sub-level. So that's everything I got. And until next time, I loved playing with you all last Sunday, and we're playing our next game together on the 12th, Saturday the 12th. So thanks so much. I love playing with you folks, and I hope this works out as a way to communicate with you. Take care.